Since we were introduced to the glorious, oh so glorious Marvel Cinematic Universe with Iron Man and the Avengers Initiative, there have been other attempts to replicate the MCU juggernaut with some mixed results. One of the elements that helped make the MCU stand out is its continued ability to create some incredible, amazing, and badass scenes that left us with our mouths full of popcorn wide open. Today, we're going to take a look at some of those epic moments. When Iron Man was released in 2008, superhero movies had some mixed success before, including Marvel titles that had yet to return to the MCU fold. The question of what liberties each one would take loomed large. Wolverine appeared in 9 movies, and all we ever got was Cyclops asking if we'd prefer yellow spandex. Yes, Scott, yes we would. This is why no one likes you. When Iron Man hit theaters, what audiences got was a fairly faithful telling of Iron Man's origin story, including Johansson and a rendition of the Iron Man Mark I armor. When the massive makeshift suit of power armor burst through the blast door to the opening strains of Black Sabbath's hit Iron Man, the stage was set for the MCU. While not everyone in the MCU has gotten their comic book costumes, that sequence announced what kind of world the MCU was gonna be. An awesome world. Even with the rough start with a different face for Marvel's chief expert in gamma radiation, the MCU has managed to establish one thing: the Hulk is a nearly unstoppable smashing machine. Even the unshakable Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, was nervous that a calm Banner might get mad and release the other guy. In fact, chief among Loki's plan when invading Earth was to gather all the strongest people who could oppose him in one spot and then unleash the Hulk on them, and it almost worked. In Age of Ultron, we got some glimpses at how the Avengers dealt with the unstoppable rage monster. If a little calm suggestion didn't work to soothe the raging heart, Tony Stark had a backup in Veronica, otherwise known as the Hulkbuster armor. With the mind-bending Scarlet Witch unleashing the Hulk on a nearby city, Tony has to summon Veronica, and one of the best Hulk-smashing city fights ensues. Come on, big guy, sun's getting real low. These days, everyone knows to sit through the credits of not just a Marvel movie, but any blockbuster franchise. The end credits scene has become a staple of action films. In 2008, patient audiences were rewarded with the scene that started it all. And an Avengers movie that follows standalone superhero movies, where many of our favorites would get together and kick some butt, sounded incredible. No one was entirely sure how that'd work. Those who sat through the credits of Iron Man got the answer when Nick Fury, an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., showed up in Tony Stark's living room with a plan called the Avengers Initiative. That scene not only began the connection of the MCU, but cemented the tradition of the post-credit scene. While probably not popular among movie theater ushers, these little gems now carry as much speculation as the films they're a part of. It's all well and good to be brave when you're super strong, have unique high-tech gadgets, or other superheroes that'll help you overcome whatever wants to do you harm. However, if you're willing to stand up and fight because it's the right thing to do, even though you know you might lose, then you have the makings of a true hero. We saw that when the bony little Steve Rogers stood up to a much larger man to protect someone, and the inevitable beatdown occurred. He grabbed a garbage can lid and let the bruiser know that he could do this all day. It was the perfect summary of who Steve Rogers was and what made him Captain America even more than the super soldier serum. He revisited that never say die line when he squared off against his friend Tony Stark to protect his other friend, Bucky Barnes. I just don't get why they won't stop fighting. One of the hallmarks of the MCU is its patience. Before any team-up of heroes happened, outside of side appearances of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, Super Agents Hawkeye and Black Widow, we got 5 separate solo films, including 2 Iron Man movies. After 5 films and 4 years, audiences were finally treated with all of the founding Avengers in one movie. But before Earth's mightiest heroes would be able to come together, they had to overcome their differences. The reclusive scientist harboring a raging beast had to find a way to work with a brash genius, an idealistic super soldier, a pair of super spies, and the literal God of Thunder. It took the death of fan favorite Phil Coulson to bring the team together, but little did they know that death didn't take. After settling their internal conflicts, we finally saw the Avengers assemble in an epic 360-degree shot as the team circled up to face the Chitauri. In Thor's first movie, we were introduced to a conniving and scheming Loki, the god of mischief and the adopted brother of Thor. While Tom Hiddleston's Loki was a charming and cunning villain in Thor's first MCU outing, he hid his manipulating and scheming best as the main villain of the Avengers in their first movie together. In it, we saw that even when Loki's captured, that just means things are going according to plan. As an agent of chaos and a master manipulator, Loki excelled at making people think they were in charge and delighted in that moment when they realized they weren't. While Loki appreciated the destructive power of the Hulk, he hadn't anticipated exactly how mad being manipulated made the Hulk. A lesson Hulk smashed into the puny god, and it's one Loki would not soon forget. Captain America was born of a time, whether it was warranted or not, that had faith in its institutions. He continually stood up to be counted on to fight for America and the free world against the Axis power. And, well, we didn't know it just yet, Hydra. When Cap came out of the ice, he had a lot of adjusting to do, including a more complex look at the institutions he once trusted so implicitly. When his standing at S.H.I.E.L.D. came into question and the decision to contain the super soldier was made, agents tried to nonchalantly gather in an elevator one by one, but you can't get anything by Cap. No. Before he delivered an epic beatdown in the small elevator, Captain America stayed true to who he is, giving any of the men a chance to step away before the fight began. Even when being betrayed, Cap's still a stand-up guy. MCU characters like the Hulk, Captain America, and Iron Man were all well-known entities even outside of devoted comic book readers, but that wasn't the case with the Guardians of the Galaxy. That movie not only introduced us to the loose team of rogues and misfits, but it also introduced us to the colorful cosmic end of the Marvel Universe, like the Kree and the Nova Corps. Even readers of the way out end of the Marvel Universe weren't sure what to expect from the movie that feature a walking tree and a raccoon as partners. Just don't call him a raccoon. While Chris Pratt's Star-Lord dons a pair of 80s headphones and hits play on his Walkman, dancing to the groove of Come and Get Your Love by Redbone, we now knew what to expect and we loved every minute of it. Having the dancing come full circle as he uses it to distract Ronan was just the icing on the cake. Thor's hammer Mjolnir is a pretty powerful weapon. To prevent anyone who isn't worthy of such power, there's an enchantment on it that keeps the unworthy from lifting the hammer, even if it's Thor himself. In the MCU, Odin places that enchantment on Mjolnir to take that power from his brash son until he can learn what worthiness really means. Stop throwing hissy fits all the time. Once Thor proves himself worthy of the hammer's insistence on worthiness, it becomes a handy tool, whether it's to pin down god-chomping reptiles or messing with his roommate Daryl. In Age of Ultron, the assembled Avengers decide to test their worthiness and see if they can lift the hammer. While the hammer definitely nudges itself a bit when the ever-noble Captain America tries to lift it, the scene comes full circle when the heroes wonder if they can trust the newly formed Vision, who demonstrates his worth by picking up Mjolnir with ease. Ain't no thing. Ant-Man's road to the big screen was long and fraught with difficulties. Test reels were made, some wild pitches sold to the studios, and a stylistic director was given the project before stepping away for creative differences. Ant-Man himself didn't have a smooth road to respect among his peers. Not many characters of his caliber end up being lampooned on Saturday Night Live. Ant-Man's role as a badass superhero was solidified when he squared off against his nemesis Yellow Jacket while trapped inside a suitcase falling from a helicopter, triggering the Cure on the phone on the way down. It was a hint of what we might have got with the original Ant-Man director, Edgar Wright, and, like the showdown in the Thomas the Tank Engine playset prior to that, was the kind of badass fight that only Ant-Man could have. Captain America has a lot of amazing feats racked up in his time in the MCU. Between the Captain America and Avengers movies, while he's a sleeper in that he looks normal on the outside, but is actually ridiculously powerful, it's easy to forget just how super Captain America really is. Not one to show off, there's been some moments that have brought both Steve's power and persistence to the forefront. In Civil War, to prevent his friend and programmable Hydra assassin, the Winter Soldier, or Bucky Barnes, from escaping in a helicopter, Cap grabs the skid of the aircraft and tries to pull it down, ending up in a tug of war on the edge of the helipad. He even manages to switch his grip to give those impressive biceps a better chance to reel in the escaping helicopter. It also gave us a great look at how impressive those biceps really are. Good job, Chris. Really good. Cap's bicep wasn't the only highlight of Captain America Civil War. The building tension of the Sokovia Accords and the animosity between the heroes of the MCU came to a head in an airport in Germany, where Team Iron Man and Team Captain America went head-to-head. It was more than just a matchup of marquee heroes fighting each other from different sides of the conflict. The fight also gave us our first glimpse of the MCU's Spider-Man with his epic shield-stealing entrance. Spider-Man wasn't the only surprise that happened on the German tarmac. Scott Lang also took the adage "go big or go home" literally when he demonstrated that whatever can get small can also grow large, and went from Ant-Man to Giant Man. Spider-Man figures in that as well, as we were introduced to his movie reference problem-solving techniques, and we're really craving orange slices after. Superhero movies have gotten a fair amount of criticism for ending with a swirling circle of garbage in the sky. Like, that happens a lot. While Doctor Strange had its own swirling circle of sky garbage, thanks to the Time Stone, the fight took place in a world going backwards. This wasn't the end of the clever tricks the Eye of Agamotto had in store. Strange decided to forego going toe-to-toe with other wizards, and took his fight directly to Dormammu himself. While the regular superhero formula is to fight their opponent one-on-one, Dormammu's a powerful ruler of the Dark Dimension. Rather than overpowering Dormammu, Strange uses the Time Stone to create a time loop, telling the Dark Lord that he has come to bargain over and over and over again. With Dormammu trapped in his own version of Groundhog Day, he was left with two choices: spend an eternity crushing up Doctor Strange or bargain. He ended up bargaining. When the MCU expanded to the small screen, the streaming service everyone has, Netflix, provided an excellent opportunity to feature some of the grittier, street-level heroes in The Defenders, featuring Luke Cage, the immortal Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, and the radar-guided blind lawyer Matt Daredevil Murdock. The Netflix shows promised to display a rougher, darker edge of the MCU, with the main heroes navigating a post-Chitauri invasion version of New York, and the ramifications it had with street crime. To set this darker tone, the second episode of Daredevil ended in an epic single-shot fight between the Daredevil of Hell's Kitchen and rooms full of kidnappers. The fight wasn't only remarkable for its impressive choreography and filming, but for the toll the extended fight took on our central hero. It also established the hallway fight as a staple of the Netflix MCU shows that arguably hit its apex when Murdock had to fight his way out of prison in Season 3, becoming one of the most epic superhero fights ever. Spider-Man's first MCU movie had a lot going for it: an orchestrated version of the original 1967 cartoon theme, a nearly pitch-perfect Peter Parker in Tom Holland, and an interesting relationship with mentor Tony Stark. But like any quality superhero, what really made the difference was the quality of the villains, specifically the everyman gone bad Adrian Toomes. The teen movie feel of Parker and his crush on Liz Allen ran straight into the sinister supervillain plot that was the Vulture when Parker comes to Allen's house to find out that her stepdad is his nemesis. To make matters worse, Toomes manages to figure out Parker is Spider-Man on the ride to Homecoming, resulting in the most pants-wetting talk with a date's dad ever. Michael Keaton's Toomes was at his Keaton best when he threatened Parker not to mess with him or his family. It makes you forget he was once Mr. Mom, Thor Ragnarok set off a truly epic series of tragic events for the God of Thunder. He finds his brother impersonating his father, then he finds his dad only for his dad's time to come to an end. It really only gets worse for Thor from there. Right after the brothers lost their father, they gained a sister who immediately got the business of breaking Thor's stuff. After bumping the Odin sons out of the Bifrost, the hammerless Thor ends up drafted in the gladiatorial games of the Grandmaster on Sakaar. The reluctant Thor was looking for any source of good news, and he thought he got it, when the champion he was meant to face was his friend from work, the ever-loving Hulk. Unfortunately for the weary Thor, Hulk was in a fighting mood, staging a rematch of the Thor-Hulk showdown from the first Avengers movie. We think Thor would have won if it didn't come to an early end, cementing him as the strongest Avenger. Just don't tell that to Tony's Quinjet. Avengers Infinity War wasn't full of a lot of wins for the heroes of the MCU. While they'd occasionally score little victories here and there, overall, the movie saw our favorite heroes losing the war. During the climactic battle in Wakanda, we saw the tribes join the rogue Avengers in trying to hold off the minions of Thanos as Shuri sought to remove the Mind Stone from Vision. Just as our heroes were being overwhelmed, the previously absent Thor showed up sporting a new Thanos-stopping axe. This caused an excited Banner to shout out, "Oh, you're so screwed now," as the God of Thunder put down wave after wave of alien henchmen. Even better, Thor brought some new friends in Rocket Raccoon and Teen Groot, or Tree, as everyone who speaks Groot calls him. Thor and the pair of Guardians managed to turn the tide of the battle, at least for a little bit, until big old purple Thanos shows up and ruins everyone's day. Most of the sidekicks in comics have powers or suits of their own that allow them to fight side by side with the headlining hero. Scott Lang's Ant-Man instead has the loyal and willing friend Lewis. Whether it's offering his van for heroic errands, or sucker punching guards at the PIM facility, Lewis is there for Scott whenever he needs him, including keeping his business afloat. Lewis's superpower, though, is storytelling. Lewis's rapid-fire stories that feature lip syncs to his paraphrased dialogue became an unexpected highlight of the Ant-Man films, which included some of the funnier Stan Lee cameos. Lewis is so good at his storytelling that he practically wills truth serum into being. The popularity of Lewis's recaps has led to some fans requesting a recap from Marvel of the MCU so far, done by Lewis prior to Avengers Endgame, which we have to admit would be pretty amazing. While Strange 4 went direct conflict with the Dark Lord Dormammu, when it came to Mad Titan Thanos, he had to resort to a more direct approach, while Star-Lord's self-control problem ruined the coordinated attack plan that, for the record, was all Quill's idea. The heroes were forced to take a less coordinated one-on-one approach. While Tony might have managed a drop of blood, it was the Master of the Mystic Arts showdown that stood out, especially if you were a fan of the Doctor Strange from the comics. Fans were able to see Strange provide one of Thanos' best challenges, using spells like the Images of Icon, the Sacred Sword of Vishanti, and the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak. He even manages to turn a blast from Thanos into a flock of butterflies. Oh, pretty. For fans of the Sorcerer Supreme, seeing those classic spells one after the other was a treat. The Stan Lee cameo outdates the Marvel Cinematic Universe since the first one happened all the way back in the first X-Men movie. Most of his cameos have been comedic, with some being actually quite touching, but they're all gems that fans look forward to seeing. Either way, Lee's omnipresence had led to a popular theory stating he was in fact Uatu, the Watcher. Uatu is an observer character from the race of the Watchers who watched over the Marvel Universe, and who could occasionally answer the question "what if" for the comics of the same name. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, when the Guardians were making their way through multiple subspace jumps, they cruised by a seated Stan Lee with the Watchers as he's downloading his various lives with the live-action MCU movies. While it didn't expressly confirm the fan theory, it was a nice nod and tribute to the man who started it all. We'll miss you, Stan. Excelsior. Those are just some of the most badass moments in the MCU. What are some of your favorites? We couldn't get to them all. Be sure to list them in the comments below, and be sure to hit that like button and the notification bell for more MCU videos right in your inbox. And as always, thanks for watching.